So, oil going up, the dollar going up, and a CEO fired. What does this all have in common, guys? Well, simply put, it means that bad news is good news is good news. So, we're going to be talking about all of that and more. We're going to be talking about the dollar, talking about inflation, Boeing specifically, where their CEO just got fired. And anyone out there can tell me differently when they say reshuffling or stepping down in a reshuffle. Guys, you got fired. However, the stock today for Boeing, just another prime example of bad news doesn't necessarily have to be bad news, and good news doesn't necessarily have to be good news. It could just be all good news. So stock today up nearly 1.36%. It was actually up even higher from its lows, around 9% from its lows on the day, as high as roughly 3%. So nice day on Boeing, right? So kind of catching a bounce there, even though their CEO got fired, which we talked about this on the Weekend Deep Dive, guys, that this guy should have been fired a long time ago after all the disasters. So again, nothing really surprising there, and actually something good for Boeing. So if you're an owner of Boeing stock, this may be something interesting. We'll get into that a little bit later in the video, but as always, guys, we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of this as you all come here to know what the bloody what is happening with the market. Well, simply put it, today was pretty much a little bit of a bloodbath. However, this is looking more of a similar pattern that I talked about on the Weekend Deep Dive. If you guys see here, this kind of looks like a flag pattern. 3 consecutive candles going lower, sideways down, and we basically said, hey, this may be setting up an A to B pattern on the way up. So simply put it, if this is an A to B pattern that I said projecting up to $532, we have to break the new all-time highs. So don't get yourself in a tizzy yet, but we definitely could be going higher on the market. Now, as I did for all of you on the Weekend Deep Dive, I will simply go over the levels and the threats that we have to this market. But first, if you guys would not mind, hit the subscribe button and having bell notifications on. Today, we're going to be live streaming at 7 p.m. Eastern and on Thursday. So make sure you have that on so you know when we go live. Drop in, throw a ticker request, cover the news with us, talk about the news, what you think the market's doing. We love to hear your thoughts and interact with you. And we read all your comments out on the stream. So make sure you guys are subbed for that. And if you find this interesting or useful in any way, shape, or form, hit the like button. It really helps us out and lets YouTube know that you found this useful and that more people can find this to be helpful. So again, what am I going to be doing with the market this week? Well, simply put it, I'm going to do nothing, right? Right now, we are in a localized downtrend with a further big uptrend, which means we have to look to the other indices to determine what we have to do. Again, we're not below 518.22 because that means we would have to start looking bearish. And the 9-day moving average has moved up to 517, so a higher price than we previously had. So let's jump over to NASDAQ real quick. Well, NASDAQ, surprisingly, green day on close, however, red on the day. So that means that we opened lower than we closed on Friday, however, filled the gap. So I said, be careful for that gap fill and a possible fake out, as you guys will recall. So what am I looking at? Well, we got 2 levels that we can go to, in my opinion. Simply the 9-day moving average sitting around the $442 price mark. Probably will tick up a little bit to 441.5 tomorrow. So make sure you guys keep an eye on that. And we could easily rotate above 445.61. So really, post-market, we're bullish. Right now on the futures market, we're bullish going into after hours trading. However, that could all change when you guys are seeing this video because you'll be seeing it at 9 o'clock and open will be in 30 minutes. So make sure you guys pay attention to where futures are going to look to open. And we're going to be talking about Bitcoin in this video as well. And I do have a tidbit for all those older viewers that we have out there. You're not going to necessarily like this news, but we will be covering something that could possibly affect you. So make sure you stay to the end of the video where I'll be covering that. So quickly wrapping up my thoughts on the market, we're kind of in this no man's land chop fest. We definitely could rotate down lower on the S&P. And we're going to be talking about inflation particularly and why maybe the market had a more bearish reaction, especially when the expectations came out for inflation. So 518, 517, definitely a target on the S&P. NASDAQ, I could maybe see you rotating down towards 441, 442, kind of consolidating in that 50% range, right? So if we just look at a standard retracement, 441.34 is your 50% retracement, which would not be uncanny for the NASDAQ. So make sure you guys keep an eye on that level. However, Russell's still range bound above the 9-day, still possibly forming a bull-like pattern. However, it's looking more and more weak. We saw RSP down today as well. However, still above the 9-day and the previous all-time high. And we're kind of pivoting off of this previous localized high here. So we really need to see more bullishness from the market to confirm that bigger run. If we get above 518, if we get above on the NASDAQ, above 445.61, then, well, we definitely can be bullish, right? That would insinuate a larger run in the S&P, a larger run in the IWM, which is the Russell, and then a larger run on tech. Today we sold off primarily due to tech. If we look at some of the bigger names, Apple kind of petering out in this area, but definitely could be faking you out like it previously did up here. But again, we have to wait and see. Microsoft showing weakness down here, coming down to the 9-day, bouncing, however, looking weaker with volume here. If we look at Tesla having a little bit of sideways consolidation. Goog, kind of looking weak around here. Amazon and Netflix both showing strength in these areas, not really moving much, but then again, they haven't really moved much to the downside, so that is strength in my opinion. We had bonds. Everyone was saying they ticked up today. Yes, they did tick up. However, we are still in this channel for the 30-year. Until we kind of break this pattern or even invalidate something here on the 2-year, bonds are going to be range bound because Powell hasn't indicated of confirmed rate cuts, right? They haven't actually cut rates. So that's going to be some news out there. And speaking of bonds, right? Our famous bank. We talk about this bank all the time. Is NYCB getting ready to rip down lower? Is it getting ready to rip everyone's face off? As you can see here, it's near the low of this consolidation period right here, which is a gigantic coil that is winding up, that once it gets out of this range, it's going to explode. Now, does that mean that we explode prior to bank earnings on, like, I believe April 12th? Maybe. Depends, right? So we know more carnage in the bond market. And maybe people are like, hey, I just don't want to be touching banks right now because they're looking at the earnings report for the preceding banks. We did this on a live stream. And it's absolute crap. It's literal crap. Only JP Morgan's looking to be green. Bank of America 50-50, but the rest all looking to miss on earnings, which is a very staunch difference from their previous close. However, guys, what about inflation, right? We talked about inflation a little bit, but I do want to cover oil real quick before we go to it because this is going to be something of a sign for us. So if we look at oil, oil is showing strength right here. We can clearly see higher highs, lower lows, higher lows, higher highs, and we're just continuing up. We're above the 9-day moving average. We rotated off of it. We're about to have a golden cross soon on the 200 and the 50 right here. So that's going to be very bullish for oil. And what's really driving oil? Well, primarily oil fires from Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries, and Moscow orders production cuts to meet OPEC pledge. So again, Russia is part of OPEC. They're a co-partner, so they will do as OPEC says. So again, this is going to be strenuous on the oil market, is going to cause supply to go down. With stagnant demand, supply lower, prices naturally go up higher. We're close to $82 a barrel. And I was saying we were going to come back up to this region once we were around here at 77. I said 82, probably 85 is not far in the cards. And here we are at $82 a barrel. So where do we keep going from here? I definitely think we could go higher on oil. I would have to do a deeper analysis. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that video. That will be coming very soon. But the meat and potatoes, right? The meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about today. PCE expectations. As I promised you guys on the Weekend Deep Dive, I was going to come out with a video talking about this. So here we are. As you can see here, this is a very staunch report. They're expecting flat inflation, flat PCE, which would be contrary to what Powell wants. This is nothing what Powell wants. We do not want to see core stagnating at 2.8 or 2.4 because what's the last thing that happened when inflation stagnated around this region? Or God forbid, this comes in at 2.9, 2.3, right? 3%, 2.6 for regular PCE. Any uptick will definitely spook the market, and you're going into a holiday in the US. So no one wants to hold risk into this. I would not be surprised if we get a very large downward move on the market heading into these expectations, because no one wants to hold the risk going into a holiday weekend, right? Even if you buy, you still don't want to hold it over a 3-day weekend, because that's greater risk of something could possibly happen. So based on this, I do believe my expectations are wrong. I previously in the weekend deep dive that 2.7 and then 2.5 was what I was thinking, or a flat 2.6 across. However, I could be proven wrong once the report comes out. But based on this expectation, I'm saying that we're either going to get this or we're going to get a beat. One of the two options. I don't think you come in lower. And maybe they're setting you up to think that, right? That we're going to come in lower actually, and everyone's expecting fear. We have to see how the markets react. If we're selling off into this, then I may take that counter trade. But until then, I'm looking at this and being like, this is bad. This is simply bad. And it's not even as bad as this other news that I caught for you guys. If you're older and nearing retirement age, I am terribly sorry. But House Republicans are thinking, which I don't know why you would think this is a good idea in any way, shape, or form, about raising the Social Security retirement age for younger workers at 60 to 69. So, yep, they've gone off the deep end and they have lost their damn marbles. So, again, we saw this in European countries. What happens? You get kicked out of the ruling class. So, again, this is just a dumb idea. Wanted to share that with you guys because I was like, classic snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But again, the most important thing, guys, is this. This is going to be jam-packed. The PCE numbers I'm expecting, and you got PAL, right? So you got this report plus PAL. So I'm like, Friday is going to be an absolute juicy video for you guys, possibly coming out on Saturday with that, or even maybe do the weekend deep dive later this week on Sunday. I will be working Friday and Saturday. So again, won't have too much time to make a video for you guys. However, I will keep you guys updated on this on the Twitter. So make sure you guys follow us on Fatal Investing at X. And as always, we are going to go over, last but not least, the two favorite indexes. Broken index number one ticked down, which is the fear and greed. This thing just been stuck at greed all the time. And the reverse repo actually ticking down slightly, but nothing notable. Just going sideways flat. I'll keep you guys updated on this as always. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.